Welcome back, y'all, to another episode of ROC Boys Football. Today, we're doing a little preview of the 2022 NFL Combine. Started to kick off in Indianapolis this week. Kind of giving you some players that could benefit and some players who might drop on the boards. Looking into their combine potential workouts. Let's start off with this offensive tackles group. Get right into it. Evan Neal is not participating in the combine. He'll do all the interviews. It makes sense after a year where you playing into mid-January, take a couple more weeks off.
That's frankly 2 straight years for him playing deep into years. So
he's a guy who's going to test well. I mean, you see what he does in the gym. He's obviously
I'm gonna be very frank. I don't care what these 3 tackles do. Like they're alpha dogs. You know they're sick.
I think Charles Cross will be a guy who tests better than people give enough credit for. I feel like Evan Neal and Kevin Kwan are like, oh, they're sick athletes. Charles Cross is also a very, very good athlete with great movement skills. One guy I think I'm highlighting out of this group is Nicholas Petit-Frere. I think he needs to put up some sort of numbers on the bench. Again, I know you're not a guy who's like that into the numbers. I quite frankly, and I'm not too big into the numbers either, but he's a guy who did not play very strong, didn't have a good play strength. And so for him to come up and just put over like 20, you don't have to do anything crazy. But like, don't go below 20 because then there will be concerns about like how strong you are, how strong you're able to play. Any other of these guys that you're looking at?
The one guy I think Penning needs to show like some movement skills. I mean, just like thinking of like the on-field drills, I think you want to see some level of functional athleticism that it's hard to tell because like he was doing a lot of like throwing guys around at a really low level of college ball, and at times, I don't think he looked like the smoothest athlete in the world, but he got away with it because he's bigger and stronger than everyone. So I think he's a guy.
I didn't think he looked that great at the Senior Bowl either. I mean, there were reps where it's like, oh, they grab your attention, but like people were calling him like some like Senior Bowl winner. Like I wouldn't say he was a Senior Bowl winner. Another guy, Bernie Ryman, apparently is a really, really strong, like 450-pound bench. So I'm sure he'll put up some numbers.
He's super strong. That kind of surprised me.
Yeah, me too, right? And then I think 2 other guys, Daniel Falele and Darian Kennard, like, can he keep the weight in check? Like, if he goes like 390, like, that'll be concerning. Like, that's probably just too big. Kennard also with the weight. Apparently, he's lost 20 pounds, so maybe around 325. I'm interested to see what his measurements come in at the combine. But again, keeping your weight down at a playable weight is going to be important. The rest of the offensive line, I mean, one more guy, Tyler Linderbaum, is going to test incredibly well. I'm interested to see the weight too. Like, people are saying they want to see him over 300. I quite frankly don't care.
I don't care about that.
Whatever weight he was
so good.
Whatever weight he was playing at Iowa, perfectly fine with me. Dude
I think it matters more for guys who you're like making big sweeping projections is kind of my take on the combine. Like if you're not drafting the play on the field, like you want to see some special traits. If you got a guy like a Linderbaum and Olave, a Charles Cross, like you saw them dominate for years, I don't care what their numbers are in the combine. You know, I
absolutely agree. Moving over to the wide receivers, we have Garrett Wilson as our number 1 wide receiver. I'm hearing that he won't run as fast as people think. Chris Olave is a guy who's going to probably run in the low 4.3s. Like, he absolutely has some burners.
4.3s?
Yeah, I heard it's like blazing fast.
Really?
Yeah. And Garrett Wilson's more of a 4.5 guy. And I'm not going to like panic too much on Garrett Wilson's because he plays really fast and his movement skills are incredible. The ability to stop, change direction, and do what he did on film is impressive, and I'm not too worried about it. Maybe a little bit about the weight. I want to see those guys maybe a little bit heavier, but again, I'm not too concerned.
The guy who needs a strong. I think probably David Bell and Drake London. For me, I think you want to see some speed.
Just some sort of speed.
Obviously super productive, but like yes, you could question will they have the top end?
Yes,
do it
because Mike Evans was
I think Drake London in particular because he won so much on contested catches and big balling guys. So
and he's not a guy where I need to see like a 4.5, but like don't be like over 4.6.
I don't want to see in the 4 like a Kelvin Benjamin type.
Yeah, you don't want to see like 4.6s where it's like you're really gonna have trouble running away from people. I'm interested to see what Treylon Burks does because everyone's calling him like a DK Metcalf-ish with like the size, and he's fast, but I'm interested to see what the top end burners are. George Pickens is another guy who just didn't look like he had the same juice coming back from the ACL injury. Granted, it was legitimately like 7-8 months ago since he tore his ACL, so he's really rushing back. And then Justin Ross, where just
same situation. Like you want to see progress, I guess. Health progress probably in particular. So
and then tight ends. Wademeyer, I'm interested to see what he looks like moving.
Yeah, I watched his highlights back. I don't know what you're seeing that you think he's like this super slow tight end.
Oh, he's very slow, I think. I think it'll be 4.7. Like, I think it'll be 4.7 plus. Like, I don't see him. He just doesn't have that top gear.
No, he'll be in the 4.6.
He gets out in the field, he can stride, but like he does not get. He's like a Big Mac truck. Like he needs to like have some runway before he gets going.
I don't know what you're watching. I think you just are deceived because the legs aren't moving as fast, but he is like 6'7".
I mean, he just struggles getting going and like moving. And the problem I see is like, how are you going to separate? I like the prospect of like him being in the red zone and being an absolute massive target with a big catch radius. But like, I
think he's going to move way better in every way.
Yeah, and he's a big guy to keep your eye on, 100%. I think Greg Dulcich is going to surprise a lot of people running because he's fast. Like he gets.
Problem with that is like I'm not interested in his. I mean, the questions you have with him is he a big enough to do what tight ends do and like be able to play physical at that? Because I can see he can run. I can see he's pretty athletic. But
him and Isaiah Likely are both in that.
The problem is you're sitting at like two guys who are kind of hybrid wideouts who aren't big body catchers, which like that's kind of where tight ends make their money in the pros mostly.
But we are seeing like that transition from like
the Travis Kelce's. He's more of a
Darren
hybrid,
Waller.
I'd say.
Yeah. And so we'll see. I think Greg Dulcich has a serious. I could see him being tight end one. Quite frankly, I don't think he's getting enough love. I think he's. Yeah, I 100%. I think Trey McBride will be pretty standard. Jeremy Ruckert's another guy that we haven't just gotten enough film on yet, but like he's not going to test out of this world, but you know where you get. He's in line.
They just don't use tight ends in Ohio State. They throw to wideouts. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's a phenomenal blocker, though.
He gets kind of covered, but
yeah, there's that. That'll do it for most of my takes on these type of guys. Max Mitchell, worry about the frame a little bit, but I think Jahan Dotson might run a little faster than people give him credit for because he can get going vertically downfield from what I saw in film. This is a shame that Jameson Williams isn't running because he would put up some absolute.
Yeah, you'd like to see him run. It would be fun.
He comes from a track family. Mom and dad were track stars. Siblings are track stars. So he like no doubt was like had a track background as well, and then really knows how to get off the blocks.
I mean, you could tell he could fly.
And medicals for Justin Ross. We just got to note that too, because apparently he was playing hurt like the whole season, according to Dabo. Let's move over to the defense side of the ball, which I think is a little bit more, and we've obviously watched a lot more film on the defensive prospects, but it's a little bit more, for one, deep, as you guys see, but two, a little bit more important. I think having like the athletic ability. Start with the edge. Anyone jumping out at you, I'll throw it in your court first. Guys that are jumping out at you.
I mean, naturally, Karlaftis. I think you'd like to see. And again, he's another guy, like, yeah, he was super productive, and I kind of think I have a sense of what he is, so I'm not, like, overly concerned, but I don't think you want to see a 4.8 kind of run, or something really slow.
Not even, like, I feel like that dude just put the bench press to rest. I heard Aiden Hutchinson's the cone drills are going to be disgusting, kind of like what Kwity Paye is. David Ojabo is also in that. I'm interested to see what David Ojabo's 40 is because he's going to fly.
Him and Jackson.
And one other thing that I know that I was like, Aiden Hutchinson might not have the length that you might think he does at 6'6". I heard it might be under 32 inches, so I'm kind of interested to see that. Again, not something that I'm gonna like take him out of my number one spot for, but the nerds in the NFL care about it. Drake Jackson's
probably got a. Oh, sorry.
You get Drake Jackson's a guy, I think.
But he's just gonna, he's gonna be freaky, I think.
Well, you noted like that's a projection. Like people are taking him based off traits because there was not much on the field. I was just in the YouTube comment section with one of the guys a listener who wants the Dallas Cowboys to take him in the second round. And quite frankly, I just think it's a little too early to take, especially with how deep this class is.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get Nabaketti or even, yeah, I don't know.
Cam Thomas, Kingsley Enagbare, Nick Manito, I think I have all like above him in terms of like production and on-field play. But Jake Jackson's a guy who's doing back handsprings at 260 pounds. Very, very impressive. And he's a guy that you talked about when we're talking about offensive guys. He's a projection. You want to see those athletic traits because that's what you're drafting. You're drafting the traits in the ceiling, not necessarily a player on the field. Boy Mafe apparently is like a freak. I, for the life of me, couldn't see it on the film. And like people love him, and we just don't see it. He's probably a little higher, and obviously Will McDonald's going back to school, so we don't need him in there. He's probably a little bit higher up there. But like I haven't seen like the freaky athleticism that Boy Mafe has. And let me know in the comment section, like, do you guys see it? Because I haven't. I'm interested to see what he does at the combine.
I think Leo needs to have a good day because it's another guy who, he was a little productive, but he wasn't particularly dominant on film. And he's a guy who's going to need to be able to be super versatile or have something special about him, like can move well at 6'4", 290, close to 300 pounds. Like, I think he's going to need to have a decent day.
Like, what's he going to weigh in at? Because that'll
that is interesting.
What position he wants to play.
That's like the same thing with like Boogie Basham when it's like, what is he going to come in at? Is he going to be closer to 290 or is he going to be closer to 265? Like, kind of.
And this guy's even bigger. It could be like, okay, I'm going to commit to playing inside and get up closer to 300, or I'm going to commit. And you're out of your mind if you're DeMarvin Leo. I think you just go to edge, just where you get paid more. You'll get drafted higher.
Well,
we'll see what the people in his ears and his camp telling him about. Travon Walker, again, he's another guy that's going to fly. I mean, you saw the highlight of him chasing down that Bama wide receiver. Again, a guy with – like Daniel Jeremiah loves this dude. Had him as a top 5 pick to the Giants. Again, I don't see it. Like, I just wish I saw more in terms of like being a good pass rusher and having the bend and being able to get to the quarterback. He's a guy who can win and make some money on the combine. And guys like him don't last long. ROC said it on the other podcast. I agree. Like guys with that size, that speed, that athleticism, that strength, they don't normally last long. But he's a guy that the on-field production was not bad by any means. It wasn't like Drake Jackson bad. Not that Drake Jackson's horrible, but it wasn't. Drake Jackson he's a big project.
You just didn't see anything really on the edge. Like he made all his money by just being stronger and bullying guys, but he didn't show much of a pass rush on the edge, which is concerning.
So you're interested to see, like, can he back up? Because if he has a good
like if you can watch him be smooth and look good, like, okay, maybe we can take this raw athlete, develop him into a really good pass rusher. That's he probably will need to show that.
And the edge position is probably like maybe that in cornerback is probably like, and maybe 40 for the wideouts is probably like the most important position, as in terms of like you are drafting good athletes who are going to be able to be a better athlete than the tackle who's trying to block you. So
I very much agree.
This group, it matters the most, probably, if not the 40 for the wide receiver and cornerbacks. That probably matters the most. None of the other guys I want to talk about that much. Like David Ojabo, I think we already mentioned him. He's gonna light it up. Interested to see the weight and maybe the bench press just to see the strength, because you do worry a little bit about the play strength there with David.
Probably do want to see him close to 260, I would think.
Yeah, let's move to interior defensive line, headlined by Jordan Davis, who's not my D tackle interior defensive line number 1 anymore, passed by Perrin Winfrey. There's some guys there. Jordan Davis, he's gonna move. Like he can run. Like we all see that. I'm interested to see what the weight is. I don't know.
I actually think the two guys who need to show something the most are Jones or Travis Jones and Jordan Davis. I think when you're their size, like I think one of the draft analysts mentioned it years ago and it stuck with me, but like when Danny Shelton he ran like a mid 5-second 40 and people like debate like, oh, why does it matter? He plays D-line. And I think it might've been McShay. It's just like, well, there's just very few guys who with that athleticism pan out in the NFL. Yep. So I think you're going to want to see those And those are two big D tackles who played more of a heavy power game. I think you're going to want to see them run like reasonably. Not like they don't need to be under 5 seconds or like something crazy, but
not be wildly slow.
You don't want to see concerning speed because again, it's I think there is some truth. You need to be athletic enough to play at a high level in pros.
Yep. I don't think Jordan Davis will have any. I think he can boogie. We'll see though. Other guys that maybe I'm looking for. I mean, Perrin Winfrey's a guy that he's just kind of since the season's ended has been vaulting up the ranks. His tape I think is a lot better than people give him credit for. The Senior Bowl was phenomenal. I'm interested to see how well he moves, how well he tests on the field, just because that's where he's winning. He wins a lot because not only is he just an absolute bull with great length, but he's a very good athlete. And you see how well he can move, how well he can bend on the inside. Might be intriguing as well. Logan Hall, if he wants to kick out to edge, you kind of really trying to see that as well. Other than that, like the interior defensive linemen, you kind of are what you are put on film. I'm not stressing as much about the numbers as I am as some of these edge guys. Let's move over to linebacker. Who you have your eyes on in the linebacker room?
I actually think like if you're just looking, none of these guys besides maybe Leo Chenal, I would expect to have any problems with athleticism.
Nope. Yep.
Like everybody looked really, really good. I mean, obviously the like concerns with like a Brandon Smith or a Damone Clark were not athleticism at all. It was more like, okay, you didn't see the dominance on the field that you'd expect out of an athlete at that level. So
Brandon Smith's a guy that I think might make some money at the combine. He's not my linebacker 3 anymore. But Brandon Smith's a guy that he's going to test like Mike Parsons did. Like he's a really good athlete. He's really fast. He's very strong. It's just the on-field performance wasn't kind of
I'm not sure he's going to kill it though in like the short quickness area as much as people think. Like I know he can fly on like a long burst, but like I don't think he can move like Nakobe Dean and on a 3 cone.
And Nakobe Dean's a guy that like I don't care if he's 6 foot 225. He's gonna do fine testing because you see it on film. He's a great athlete. But Nakobe Dean, while he's my LB1, is just the instincts. Just like you're drafting a linebacker who is gonna be in the right spot, he's gonna be filling the right gaps, he's gonna be making the right plays. He's gonna have the red dot calling the plays. This dude's a smart football player. He's a good football player. There's not really gonna be much at the combine that's gonna make me change my mind on that cat. But Leo Chenal is a great example though. I think he's going to run faster than people give him credit for. I think when they see the 6'2", 260, they immediately just think, oh, he's a slow linebacker who can't move, just a box guy.
But do you think he's going to like kill the movement drills overall? I don't care that much about the 40. I care much more about like.
I think he's a better athlete.
I care more about the on-field like.
Yeah, the on-field movements.
Functional
that's
movements.
True.
I don't think he's a slow guy.
I think he's better than people give him credit for, to be honest, and he's higher up on my boards than we have him here.
I just thought he missed a lot of tackles in short areas.
He is gonna freaking kill the bench press, though. I know it doesn't matter that much, but like I heard it's gonna be 40 plus, which is just absolutely disgusting. He's a guy who lives.
Go take it to the Olympics. I don't care.
he's a workout warrior. I would be very surprised if he tests that poorly, just because of how like. He just loves being in the gym.
Don't care.
Moving on to safety, the biggest guy I have is Dax Hill. I think he's gonna cement safety too. His movement skills are disgusting. He played nickel, so the short area quickness is good. But what people I feel like forgot about when he moved down to nickel is he's one of the fastest players, not just like on the team in the Big Ten. He's one of the fastest players in the country at any position. He's gonna run in the 4.3s. I'm interested to see if it's a low 4.3. The dude absolutely has burners. And when people are starting to think about him moving back to safety, like the range is going to be there. He's going to be able to play center field. The ball's going to be in the air. He's going to be able to go play. He's got good ball skills. I think he's clearly safety too. And I think after this week of combine, after this week of testing, people are going to see it.
Yeah, I don't think the safety is particularly interesting as
besides
like
Dax,
in terms of combine. Yeah, Dax is going to be like fun, but I don't think it's going to like change his. I mean, people know he's sick, I think.
Yeah.
He'll get to showcase athleticism, but I think most people know he can do it.
Cornerback.
Obviously, but
you want to move on to Leon O'Neal?
Well, I was just gonna say that's one guy I think you'd like to have a decent day because I think a lot of his production and kind of what got him noticed was he's a big physical safety who
Yeah, you want to show
made some highlight hits. So I think he's gonna want to show it a good day. I think the other
too.
Yeah, I think Lewis Cine showed he's just more productive. I felt like more noticeable on field.
Lewis Cine also has that tab as being like a thumper, but like, I think I agree with you. I think you saw a little bit more on the back end. Leon O'Neal maybe a little bit less so with the fluid hips. I'm a little bit nervous about that. All right, let's move back to the cornerbacks, which prerequisite. Like I read a stat the other day on Twitter that there's only one cornerback in the league. This goes back for like 20 years who ran over a 4.6 and made it in the league. That's Josh Norman. There's not a single. So like when you're talking about 40, it's not that important. But like you can't
in
be
danger besides maybe Kobe Bryant and Kendrick.
I was gonna say Darian Kendrick's in danger. I think he's got some serious issues with long speed. But let's start with Derek Stingley. He's not working out, which I always said he's my CB1 until he doesn't work out at the combine. And now he's not working out at the combine, and now I'm starting to have some questions. I think he'll still be CB1. I'm giving him one more shot at the pro day, and he's got to light it up. I mean, he's a guy that we haven't really seen him play very healthy football in the last 2 years. You know what the ceiling is. The ceiling is an all-pro cornerback, the best cornerback in the country. If he put 3 years of true freshman film on tape, he's the number one pick.
I mean, it seems like a lot of people just want to see like the compete to some extent more than like I think everybody knows he's a great athlete. And I get that I'll take it. Like I know he's hurt in the combine, but again, I think you're gonna want to see him do really well in his pro day kind of thing.
Oh, it's all in the pro day.
You want to see that he is competitive. Like I want to run fast. I want to lift a lot. I want to
that's the most important thing about a cornerback. Is you want a dog.
You show what he can do because obviously the talent's there. Like that's undeniable.
Sauce Gardner is maybe a guy with the long speed concerns. I'm not too worried about him because he's one of those cornerbacks who he's a little bit handsy, and that's maybe a knock on the prospect as a whole. But he's a guy who's like, I'm not going to let you run faster than like I want you to, because he'll put his hands on you and he'll kind of like he'll bust you on off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And so I'm not like too concerned because you kind of know he's not going to like be a flyer. But again, just something like in the 4.5s and it's fine. Roger McCreary, he's a guy that's on film. Like he's a good cornerback. And I'm not too concerned with how he's testing. And again, unless like something shocking, like he already got measured, and yeah, it's not ideal, but it is what it is. He's a good football player on tape. Trent McDuffie's a guy that you want to see. He's listed at 5'11", so we have him
giving all these rumors that he's going to be like 5'8".
Yeah, and that would be a concern. Like if he's 5'10", 5'9.5", but like once you get like 5'9" and below, like then I'm starting to be like, okay, how are you going to be able to play on the outside? Maybe you're nickel, which again is not the end of the world. I think he'd be a great nickel cornerback, but you start losing some money and are you going to draft a nickel corner in the top 15? Andrew Booth's a guy that you want to see those fluid hips. That's what you see on film. You just want that because he's a guy that you said in the beginning, like he didn't put out the best film. I think the traits are better than the film you put out, similar to like a guy like Drake Jackson, similar to a guy like DeMarvin Leal. So you want to see those traits confirmed. Marcus Jones is going to be a blazer. He's going to move really well. He's a movement god. I mean, he's just super twitchy, super explosive. He's a nickel back. He's a nickel corner. 5'8", 185.
Down the stretch, he got some big corners just across the board.
Yes.
Martin Emerson, Kyrie Elam, Sauce, all 6'2" plus kind of guys. So naturally, you want to see the movement skills out of anyone that tall at corner.
Aaron Kendrick, I just want to see the speed. I mean, like, are you going to be able to run with it? Because you couldn't do it against the Alabama guys. And, like, he's a good physical receiver with good ball skills, former wideout. Like, will you be able to run with the fast wide receivers in the league? You got to run a fast 40. Kobe Bryant's similar. He's like a guy who's put out really good film, and you have questions about the traits. If he had traits like Trent McDuffie, he'd be a first-round pick because the film is really good. Martin Emerson, probably similar. Really long. Can you add the fluid hips? Can you stick with wide receivers? And then one other guy, Kyler Gordon's going to kill it. And he's from everything I've read, like this dude's a freak.
That's what you think.
And you worry about the instincts and the film that he put out, which wasn't bad, but it's more a product to just like, have you been tested enough?
It just wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. It was like too many corners at that school, and he was playing in the slot.
Yeah, and we skipped quarterbacks because we haven't scouted. We've scouted them, but we haven't like solidified our rankings yet, and a lot of that comes kind of later in the process. Any quarterbacks that you have your eyes on?
The combine with quarterbacks, you can't listen to the interviews. So you got to take it for what some random scouts decide to put out, and who knows who's telling the truth.
Yeah,
but it's just so irrelevant. Like, I don't care if they can throw well at the combine.
All the quarterbacks that's getting done behind closed doors, like how they're interviewing. Like that's what matters here. One guy that maybe you want to see is like Malik Willis is going to tear it up with I want to see what the 40 is, because we had this conversation off the pod last night. I think Malik Willis is closer to Lamar Jackson than he is to Jalen Hurts with the athleticism, and so I just want to see that. I want to see that on in the workouts. Like if he runs a really fast 40, and like this dude is like not just like a good athlete. Like Jalen Hurts was a good athlete who was able to use his athleticism and his mobility as a tool.
He's a legit running back, good athlete.
I think Malik Willis led the country in missed tackles, like more than Kenneth Walker. But it's like absolutely sick. And he's built like a truck. Like he's only 6 foot, but he is 220 pounds, and he's gonna give it to you if you try to tackle him. Maybe you want to see him slide a little bit more. But he's a guy where I think he can show that, hey, I can use my athleticism as a legitimate weapon, like Lamar Jackson, as opposed to like, oh, I'm just like Josh Allen's a guy like that too, where it's like his speed and athleticism and being the big body that he is, that's a weapon. That's not just a tool. Like they use that as a weapon in their offense, the Buffalo Bills. I think Malik Willis can show that at the combine, and I think that'll help the stock a little bit. That's the quarterback rankings. We wanted to do a quick 20-minute preview, and we'll obviously be putting out content as we get updates on how the combine's going for all these players. Any other guys you want to talk about before we get off here?
No, I just have my final thoughts are it really matters for such a few number of guys in my mind. Like it's just like these people, like you get all like wound up about, oh, his hands are a 1/4 of an inch smaller than I thought. It's like, who cares?
Pick his hand size. It's probably the biggest storyline.
If you dominate like at a big time program, like I don't care what you do at the combine. Like I think you'd prefer not to see you like take it as a joke and do really poorly.
Who's the guy Paris Ford last year at Pitt? Yeah, he put out good film with safety 5 or something for us.
You don't want that.
And he comes out and it's like I think he went undrafted because quite frankly it was like you just didn't take.
You don't want to see a 4.9 40 out of a safety.
It's just like he doesn't even play that slow. Like he was.
He's faster. He's faster than that. There's just something with it.
He just didn't. Was he like going out partying in Indianapolis like the night before? Like, do you just not take this serious at all? And that was the biggest concern. Is like, are you a professional?
But everybody's gonna start jumping prospects like from the 3rd round to like top 10 overall. Like I think that's ridiculous.
I agree to an extent. I also think that football is a sport where the best athlete wins most of the time. But I think you want to see that athlete on the field, not necessarily.
Not like we're picking college basketball players, though. It's like we know that how most of them play football against kind of pro-level guys.
Yeah, and that's what you want to see. You want to see, is he a good football player? But the guys that we talked about, those are the guys.
Yeah, I think there's some who, I agree with that. There's some who can benefit a lot from the combine. I think very few, though.
Yeah, like again, like an Aiden Hutchinson doesn't run as fast as you might think or whatever it is. If it's not alarming, like he's still a number 1 prospect because you look at the film, he's the best player in college football. So that's kind of a preview. We pretty much were just outlining some guys that you really wanted to see kind of exceed. I'm telling you, I think the biggest storyline is the ROC Boys has Jalen Wademeyer's 40. We got some wagers going on that.
I know it's going to be faster in it's going to definitely be faster in the 4.7. I would think it'll be.
I don't think so. I think it'll be 4.7s. Like he's slow. He's not fast.
I don't know what game you watch, but whatever. You do what you do.
And then there's a couple other guys. I think mostly the edge. So that's kind of the wrap up. Is like I think the edge guys and the cornerbacks and the wideouts probably have the most biggest to win. But there's some other guys that you want to see weight. You want to see just not being a horrible athlete is important. And yeah, we'll be back. It's easier to talk about the combine once the numbers are in. So we'll be kind of doing some nightly recaps as the combine kicks off. Once again, appreciate y'all for watching as Dill takes a massive drink of water. And we'll be back more with some NFL draft and combine content soon. Peace, y'all.